What's good with y'all boys, man? What's good with y'all boys, man? It's your boy TJB24, you know what I'm saying? With another reaction. Today we got how bad is Ben Simmons actually, you know what I'm saying? How bad is this man actually? Honestly, Ben Simmons, like in his prime, or in his prime, I guess you could say, he really didn't really reach his prime yet, for real, if we're being real. But when he was on the Sixers, like, yeah, this man was cold, like, for real. Like, the people don't understand, but when they got Ben Simmons, when he started playing, for real, you know what I'm saying? They won 50 games, instant. I'm just saying, they won 50 games in a regular season. They went on that little 16-game winning streak. And Ben Simmons was hooping his butt off, I'm telling you. So I guess he did deserve that Rookie of the Year, I guess. Even though Donovan Mitchell was going crazy. But that's besides the point. How bad is Ben Simmons actually? Let's check it out. You know what I'm saying? That thing buffering already.
I know people who want to try to be my friend because I might be in the NBA, I might have a nice contract and be on TV and famous. I'm not friends with anybody.
That boy accent strong in this video.
There is
Hold
zero chance he'll be alive.
Ben Simmons is right now the best dribbling scorer.
NBA Rookie of the Year is
Ben Simmons.
It's not right to say he got more productive in his second season.
You think Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship?
David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now.
Not really.
excuse
I'm sorry.
that we have ever seen.
Yeah. Shout out to
Ben
Switch
Simmons'
Channel.
fall off has been unlike anything else in this game. The dude had it all. From the time he was in high school, #1 prospect by a landslide, awards, a monstrous contract, touted as the next LeBron James, and even dated a Jenner. It's safe to say that coming into the NBA, and maybe even now, there's very few talents that have touched the floor with the level.
See, look, that right there might be the problem right there. That boy probably got the Jenner curse. That's tough. I don't know how D-Book avoided it. Actually, he didn't avoid it. It all came together in that second round against the Mavs. And then this year against the Nuggets.
Of natural ability that Simmons garners. From his 6'10 frame, ridiculous playmaking skills, a sky-high IQ, while being a nightmare matchup for every player in the world on the defensive end. Despite the path being all but laid out for him, Simmons watched as over a couple years he bounced from a top player in the NBA to NBA bust discussions, and one of the most hated NBA players of all time. As a guy his own teammates don't seem to like, and positionless player who sucks at all 5 positions, for a player of his talent level,
Whoa.
it's easy to see why people look at him as a quitter
That's
and an
tough.
all-around bum. The making of one of the most polarizing players in NBA history didn't come from nowhere. So what made the NBA's biggest underachiever? As an Australian native, it's not usual to make it to the highest stage in competitive basketball, but it's also not.
YouTube is the new home of NFL
Man,
Sunday
Ben
Ticket.
Simmons,
Watch all
really
your
and truly, Ben Simmons isn't even that bad for real. He just,
favorite NFL teams
I
out of
think he
market
lost
Sunday afternoon
confidence.
games.
That's all it is,
All-
for real, to be honest. I think that's what it is.
Also not usual to have a 6'9" dad who put up 40 bombs in the Australian Basketball League, so I guess it's not too surprising he was one of the best players in the world at every level he ever played at. Playing and learning under the coaching of his father, he dominated the Australian scene, taking home championships and MVP trophies whenever they were going out. Giving up his secondary love of Australian football to quickly become the best Australian talent in the continent at age 15, his game only continued to grow as he would take up a scholarship to play at the Australian Institute of Sport in 2012 and represent the Australian FIBA team at just 15 years old. Despite the early age, he was one of the top prospects in the country and already had his eyes on a spot and a payday in the NBA. Bouncing to Montverde Academy in Florida was definitely a step in the right direction, as they don't have a shortage of NBA talents, including future teammate Joel Embiid and alongside future Eskimo Bro and D'Angelo Russell. Coming in, it's no surprise the two were far and away the best high school duo in the country, as finishing 28-0 with a national championship with 18.5, 10, and 3 averages. Ben Simmons was the best player in the 2015 high school class, and it wasn't even close. A 6'8" forward who ran like a deer, could jump out of the gym, pass on double teams if he needed to, but he rarely did, as he could bulldoze to the basket at any point. At this level, there was truly no answer for the Ben Simmons problem, and it wasn't long until the athletic point forward was known as the next LeBron. Especially in the climate we're in with whatever these kids are eating, it's easy to forget the prospects of yesteryear. But looking back at this time, he was more hyped than Towns, he was probably more hyped than Wiggins, he might have been more hyped than Anthony Davis, and he might have been more hyped than Blake Griffin.
I don't know
some that may be irrelevant, but Simmons definitely was one of the most dominant high school players since the birth of the internet. 28 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2.6 steals made him the best player with a Naismith and Gatorade Player of the Year to prove it. Natural talent dominates at this level, and making 7 out of 10 shots proved he was by far the best individual talent in the country. Despite all the clout being touted as the next LeBron James, he denied the flashier, more traditional routes. He wasn't interested in Kentucky or Duke, and chose to go to LSU due to his godfather serving as an assistant coach for the Tigers. On a not-so-competitive team, Ben was running the show and then some, leading in everything that wasn't three-point or free-throw shooting, with 19, 12, and 5 averages with 2 steals a game and nearly a block. Despite missing out on the NCAA tournament, Simmons left his mark on the NCAA. Brandon Ingram was a talented player, but Ben had what seemed like a limitless upside. The best transition player by a mile, with decision-making of an elite point guard coming from a 7-footer, a legitimate point forward who hadn't even come close to his potential. For good or for bad, there was a lot of areas that Simmons could improve his game, primarily in the half-court offense. His back-to-the-basket play wasn't too diverse, his screen-and-roll play as a ball handler and a roll man was not very elite, and his jump shot was completely non-existent. This also wasn't all that came with picking Simmons either, and in hindsight, this may not have even been the worst.
Like he could shoot for
As a kid who really knew nothing other than dominating every level of basketball he touched, Simmons' complacency was completely evident. Getting to the 10 and finishing over you was pretty easy, and if you bring help, he knows you're coming before you even do. The blessing that this is also comes with a price, as the lack of a fully formed game makes you wonder, when the best coaches in the world are playing against you, how thick can they poke those holes that are already in his game? Whether you watch 10 years or 10 minutes of Ben Simmons basketball, you still knew who the top pick of the 2016 draft should be, and without hesitation, the 76ers cashed in on their future cornerstone. After a historically poor 10-72 season, the Sixers were bound to turn things around. The return of Joel Embiid marked big things for the future of this team, but sadly we would be forced to wait a year for the duo to play, as Simmons' broken foot in training camp would leave him out for the 2016-2017 season. After a season on the sideline, his hype was definitely stunted, as he fell into the Black Horse Rookie of the Year candidates. But everyone would believe that Simmons' talent would translate to him being an immediate impact player couldn't have been more correct. He grabbed the league by the balls in his kind of rookie season. 16, 8, and 8 made him by far the best rookie in the league, if you want to consider him that, and one of the best Rookie of the Year campaigns in modern NBA history. Even at the highest level, Simmons was a notch above the rest. It really didn't take much more than we had seen from him in the past.
DJ Khaled
the mix of the ultra-talented point forward and more playing time by the new franchise big, the Sixers jumped from 28 to 52 wins this season. The acquisition of these two should not be understated. Their presence alone turned Philly from one of the sorriest teams of all time to one that had what looked like the best young core in the NBA. Running into his first playoff series in his first NBA season, Simmons was far and away the best player on the court this entire series, with a near triple-double average. There wasn't many that questioned his talent coming into the league, but those who did were quickly silenced, as after just 1 year in the NBA, Simmons ascended into the league's upper echelon of players. The domination just seemed to never end. But after the red-hot start to his playoff career, there seemed to be some trouble in paradise. Although extremely talented, the holes in his game made him stoppable when game planned correctly, and that was clearly done well by the Brad Stevens Celtics, with your two main options being interior scoring threats. Sagging off and clogging up the lane took away Simmons entirely at times, including a 1.5 turnover performance.
I remember this game like
although
yesterday,
the series total was not too far up.
That boy had 1 point. and he shot 1 or 2 from the free throw line. It was so crazy. That was just that's crazy. They was
His
locking
regular
him up
season
that
numbers,
game.
this series foreshadowed an issue that would plague Simmons for his entire career. Entering year 2, I think it's safe to say that the expectations were to continue to grow from this point onward. He had all the tools you could need to dominate the NBA, but to reach that level, there were some major hurdles that he needed to climb, and despite reaching the All-Star game in just his second year in the league, his numbers clearly plateaued along with the team's success. It's clear his offensive game did not see any measurable improvement from his rookie year. Although still quite elite and probably just out of the top 15 already, his basic and advanced metrics dictate a minor improvement, if any at all. Although starting to garner attention for the defensive versatility that he provided, it's hard to gauge whether he improved or was just put in a better role to succeed. Despite having shown no life as a shooter, he was a 22-year-old who could run the point at 6'10", so you can't be too mad, I guess. As playoffs rolled around, a pair of matchups that seemed rather dry turned out to be all-out movies. The unlikeliest of beefs formed after a Game 1 loss to the Nets, where Jared Dudley, of all people, let it be known that within the half-court, Ben Simmons is average. I'm not sure what that makes Dudley, but nonetheless, Simmons did respond well to this with 17, 7, and 8 averages, despite major pickups of Toby Harris and Jimmy Butler taking up a lot of shots, as the Sixers took the next 4 games. Bouncing into the next round, I'm sure you remember the shot to finish it off. With an all-time classic finale, this also is one of the most back-and-forth series of the 2010s, with play seeming rather inconsistent for me.
That was the best.
With pretty mediocre averages, it started to become clear that he was not a guy who could possibly show up every night. Being rather matchup dependent and doing most of his work in the open court, when all is going well, Simmons was one of the best talents in the NBA. When things are not going so well, closeouts are weak and transition opportunities are limited, Simmons never seemed to have the motor to kick it up a notch and would rather set it in cruise control. Through 2 seasons, Ben had yet to make a three-pointer, taking the ropes as the poster boy a jump shot away from taking over the league. The offseason training video started to build the facade despite a pretty decent-looking jump shot for him. The translation from off-season training to a real game success was pretty much just a fantasy, unless you consider a one-off pull-up against a Chinese team an improvement. Despite an all-defensive team selection and even an all-NBA third-team spot, Simmons and the Sixers continued to tread water. He may have been an all-star, and he'd let you know that too, but he started to garner doubt from even the most loyal fans. Embiid is great and has the potential to lead a team, but with his partner in crime at times being a subpar NBA player, the push to the promised land was going to be a whole lot harder, unless Simmons really dug in his boots. As the 2020 season took an unexpected turn, the Ben Simmons saga began taking a twist as well, after a back injury sidelined him in the regular season and a knee injury sidelining him for the playoffs in his first major time off the floor since his rookie season. With the loss...
And also that showed that Ben Simmons had a lot of impact on the Sixers team too. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, he really did. Like, people feel like it was all in Embiid, but bro, I'm telling you, this man Ben Simmons had a lot of impact on this team. I'm telling you. The best team they had was the one with it was Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. Should have kept Jimmy, obviously, you know what I'm saying, but they couldn't because they chose that they want Tobias Harris. You know what I'm saying? Now look who was killing them in the playoffs. Jimmy Butler. That's crazy.
The Sixers didn't stand a fighting chance, getting swept by the young guns Celtics, in a series that you think would be a lot more competitive. In a lot of ways, this showed you the value that Simmons could have. A legitimate 1-5 stopper can slow down an onslaught from the wings, but it was never exactly the opposition that was holding him back. Following what you could call his worst year in the NBA up to this point, the Simmons hate was blasted to a high that was completely unforeseen. After reaching career lows with a team tired of waiting on his offensive development, Ben spent the season playing for the team that was looking ready to pull the trigger to get him out of their city. Despite the drama, the Sixers ran through the East this year and very well could have seen an Embiid MVP 2 years early, before matching up with the Atlanta Hawks in the second round. It's safe to say that if you weren't banking on him now, you wouldn't be banking on him after. As not only was Ben Simmons exploited in this series, it's safe to say that he was mentally destroyed. Despite shooting 45 free throws in a 7-game series, he failed to average 10 points per game, sagging on defense repeatedly, sending 4 guys back to slow his transition play, and going under every screen challenged Simmons to turn
That
up the
was the
motor.
start of the
And similar to
downfall
what
right
we've seen
there.
so far in his career, when the going gets tough, he tended to get lost. Disappearing into a spot-up shooter who can't shoot at the end of games, shooting 33% from the line through a hack of Simmons, and an all-out abuse from every direction. Worst
But
came to
Trae Young
worst
was
as in
going
Game 7,
stupid too.
Simmons made the pass heard around the world. Scared to go up on basically a traffic cone sitting in front of him, illustrating the lack of
Traffic
aggressiveness
cone.
that plagued
It's
him.
crazy.
As Embiid pinned the loss on the swing of momentum he caused, and his own team couldn't BS an answer on whether Simmons was his guard of the future, Simmons was one of the most ridiculed men in the NBA at this point. As times got tough and his own fans started to turn on him, he once again decided to quit, requesting
Man.
a trade after what he views was disrespect from his teammates and team alike. Putting him on the trade block as he refused to play another game in a Sixers uniform, missing training camp, preseason, and the start of the regular season, fresh off of his worst playoff performance of his life. And with what became the worst contract in the NBA, he may not be playing, but there was no exit route in sight for the Ben Simmons saga. After $8 million in escrow was put on the line, Simmons finally returned to team activities in which he was kicked out of practice for refusing to participate. What many people think was a lie to save his own pocket, Simmons then sat out for mental health reasons until the league had enough, and Simmons was fined more than most people make in a lifetime. In the span of less than a year,
I forgot about
Simmons'
him.
relationship with the team went from good as a near defensive player of the year talent to bad at a point where fans were quick to point out the loser on the team, to now where no one really stood for Simmons as a player, teammate, or person. To remove one drama queen, I guess you need to bring in another, as in February 2022,
Man,
Simmons would be shipped to Brooklyn for James Harden. Landing in the Big Apple, it's safe to say there was some sort of fit here.
now that's somebody I'm so tired of. Like, bro, what? Like, man, James Harden, I'm so tired of this man, bro. He too old to be talking about some, oh, I just want to be traded here. Oh, I would never play for Daryl Moore. Come on now. Like, you're supposed to be a professional athlete. Come on now. Like, what are you doing, man?
The failure in Philadelphia was certainly not due to issues in play style directly, although a point forward who can't shoot doesn't exactly complement a post-scoring big. But now sharing the floor with two of the best shot creators the game's ever seen, adding a defensive weapon who can force transition opportunities brings a
That
whole
boy
new
defense
dynamic
never
to the
left,
greatest
though. I
what-if
can't
team
lie.
in recent years. Since, of course, it was all just wishful thinking. Diagnosed with a herniated disc in his back, Simmons would not be taking the floor this season. As Simmons, who hadn't played since the past, that likely replays in his head every night, I think everyone was ready for his return, and even Ben seemed ready as he planned to return for Game 4 of the first round, facing an elimination game before pulling
But
out
that
and
dude
watching his
didn't-
team get buried while he rides the bench.
Man,
After
that
back
got
surgery in the
bad.
offseason, Ben returned for the 22-23 season, in which Nets fans certainly did not enjoy. They moved on from their star players, and Ben was certainly not one of them, with triple single averages and a shit-tastic 44%
Triple
free throw
single.
percentage. At just 26 years old, it seems like his best days are way behind him.
Crazy.
From time to time,
Crazy to
the
say.
flashes of what was are still there. He's still a very athletic four who can see everything on the court and guard just about everyone. But at the same time, he's also a kid who seems to have his own set of issues and just doesn't love the game anymore. The Nets struggle to even find a role for him as a ball-dominant guard who can't dominate with the ball, and with only 5 career threes under his belt, he's kind of a complete nuisance playing off of it. Maybe we were a little hard on what he was going through at the time, but as a kid who never faced a bump in the road up to this point, seeing a spoiled Kardashian boy pack it up was in a way satisfying.
Spoiled
Simmons will more than
Kardashian
likely
boy
never
is
regain his
crazy.
reputation, as throughout the years, a guy who never improved his offensive game a bit just isn't going to receive the benefit of the doubt. But the chance of rebuttal is strictly up to him. Ben Simmons in many ways was what we expected to a level we couldn't expect, as weird as it sounds. Ben Simmons was the next phenom. He did come
But-
into the NBA
but
and he
will
did terrorize it
LeBron-
at times. but his entitled persona and
One,
lack of
one
drive
shot
was
away
to the
from
level
being,
that no one could
one jump
expect.
shot away from being.
Maybe
the
with
next
all that
LeBron.
talent, he could revive what looks like the most disappointing turnaround in the NBA, or maybe Ben Simmons just drove himself into the ground. All I know to this point is that this is the Ben Simmons story. Thank you for watching if you made it this far, and I'll see you boys in the next one.
Man, shout out to Swish County. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to him. I was supposed to be reacted to this, but you know what I'm saying? I got sick. I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, you could probably still hear it in me, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, my thoughts on Ben Simmons this coming up season, I think he got something to prove. You know what I'm saying? He clearly does. I think Ben Simmons might be the guy. You know what I'm saying? I think he might, as long as he can find a role on the Nets alongside Mikal Bridges, like I feel like he could do something. You know what I'm saying? They could get the best out of each other probably. I ain't gonna lie. But let me know your thoughts on this video. You know what I'm saying? Like, subscribe, comment. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful day today. Wake up. Eat some nice little food. Eat some fruits. Eat some vegetables. Eat some, you know what I'm saying, something. Drink a smoothie or something. You know what I'm saying? Live life to the fullest. And yeah, I'm out, man. Oh, everything.